Welcome. So in contemplating tonight's gathering, I had this sense of kind of circular motion, spiral motion, where kind of what I've always said, I have very little to say and I just sort of say the same thing over and over. Sorry. Uh, I was really reminded, I, I, I had this sense of, you know, a question, a living, breathing inquiry of, how does one move beyond um, the world of, mind, intellectual, conceptual self? Because even after awakening, sometimes that particular revolution of being doesn't really actually happen, and so I had this inquiry floating through, and I thought to myself, I want to look in Adya's The Way of Liberation. It's just the best book. I used to hand these out at retreat, and I might start again. um, if we only had if we had one thing to read. Um, but I had it here at the condo in two of the nightstands next to the bed. So I guess I'm hoping that the renters who rent the condo are going to pick up The Way of Liberation. But it was great for me because there it was. I can remember when it dawned, that flash of recognition, that direct flash of recognition where one moves beyond the psychological self, beyond the false self, beyond the referencing, categorizing, dividing self, and the universal presence, the universal being, the uncaused love is returns one home, is recognized, is remembered. And there was this time where it was so obvious that all these mind worlds, they're kind of like bubbles in a bubble bath, 9 billion mind worlds. And every time, two collide, they spawn another mind world. And some gather together in a conglomerate of mind worlds. And, you know what I'm talking about with bubbles, right? And each one is like this contained universe of opinions and beliefs and ideas and justifications and compensations and defenses and divisions. And when that bursts, it's like laying, the greatest burden you've ever encountered down. And one can't believe that one was operating from there, right? But then all the programming, all of the memories and programs and conditions that are part of the wiring of the subconscious naturally flow in to this great intelligence and begin to dismantle and dissolve any sense of self, which is a different shift and a different experience than the initial moving, the popping of the bubble bath bubble of the like, oh, wait a minute. I have been basing my entire self-identity around this psychological process of thought, belief, feeling, thought, belief, feeling, thought, belief, feeling narrative. And I thought that was me, right? That begins to it either goes or it begins to become irrelevant and kind of fade out after you see through it. But then there's this whole other process. Aja calls it a revolution. And I had so much gratitude today, remembering how during that passage from self to communion with the infinite, during that passage, this was invaluable, 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 because something moves our heart to continue through a devotion. The Sangha, keeps us on track. Our teacher keeps us on track. Teachings keep us on track. Our own life experience kind of bonks us around and like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm believing. The believer has reassembled. The believer has reassembled, and here it is in shining colors. Believing, 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 and here I am in my mental arrogance, doing and doing and doing. So something kind of has to keep us with our to steer our compass, to bring us back. Something other than a moral code or dogma or something that, but a path that is true, that nourishes the truth of who one is. And that's unique. That's unique. And yet it's universal. Each life is so preciously unique. It's beyond comprehension. Each life is divinely orchestrated and uh, of value, of inconceivable value, inconceivable value. And yet there are these universal experiences, I guess you might say. So somehow we have to find a way and walk that way, inhabit that way, live that way, that questions our solid assumptions. Because even after awakened experiences, even after you think you have no belief around identity, the intellectual, conceptual, conditioned, collective force of habit that is that mind world can easily co-opt what has been realized cellularly. I mean, it will almost guaranteed give it a shot. Where is this that I wanted to read about this revolution real quickly? It just can't be said much better than this. The inner revolution is the awakening of an intelligence not born of the mind, but of an inner silence of mind. This is the communion with the infinite that we're pointing to again and again and again, where the conditions of memory and habit are forsaken, abandoned, relinquished, disbelieved. I don't know what word works best for you, surrendered. So that inspiration can flower. The inner silence of the mind alone has the ability to uproot all of the old structures of one's consciousness. Not our thinking about our realization, not our conclusions about what we've remembered and what we've become. An inner silence of mind, which alone has the ability to uproot all of the old structures. And unless those structures are uprooted, there will be no creative thought, action, or response. This isn't dogma. This is just born of Aj's personal experience and here as well. You have kind of have the choice, memory and historical conditions or inspiration, creativity, freshness, beginner's mind. Unless there is an inner revolution, nothing new and fresh can flower. Only the old, the repetitious, the conditioned will flower in the absence of this revolution. But our potential lies beyond the known, beyond the structures of the past, beyond anything that humanity has so far established. Amen. Amen. Our potential is something that can flower only when we are no longer caught within the influence and limitations of these known conditions, beyond the realm of the conceptual mind, beyond the limitations of humanity's conditioned consciousness, all the little bubbles, the bubble bath bubbles, the mind world bubbles, beyond lies that which can be called the infinite, the sacred. And it is from this that a new and fluid consciousness is born and wipes away the old life. Not some program of making ourselves better, having better experiences, becoming a better person, all the rest. It's transmutation, a communion with the infinite. Such an expression is neither personal nor impersonal. It's not spiritual, it's not worldly, but rather the flowering of existence beyond all notions of self. Some of our minds at whatever particular time we might hear that and get really discouraged. But can you hear the hopefulness? This is each and every one of us. This is each and every one of us. And as Sharon was saying at retreat, this is the time. This is the time. So we can hear these beginner's mind, communion with the infinite, and then there still can be the tendency, and it's not to bring ourselves down or to give the ego, feed the ego with our unworthiness. It's just to be sincere. It's just to be sincere about what's going on, to tell the truth about what's going on, so then therefore we can move beyond the habit, the condition. It's not to, bring us down. It's to just be truthful, because we can have an experience of the inner silence of mind in meditation, at retreat, at a beautiful event in our lives, or a very difficult, tragic event in our lives, birth, death, that kind of thing, stands us still. I don't know, maybe it's a amazing ski in the forest where all thought evaporates. There's an inner silence of mind. Maybe it's happening for you more and more and more just as you're going about your daily deal. Aj's description of true meditation. But then something triggers that unconscious habit, that subconscious conditioning. And here we are back in the world of division, 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 division. And so I know that I just am wired the way of giving people a lot of freedom to find their relevant, resonant path, Like here it's, inquiry, meditation, contemplation. Well, those are certainly what works here. But I know, it has to be resonant. I've seen that over and over and over again in almost 15 years of teaching. It has to be resonant for the person, or it just it doesn't take hold. And there's also a time. To everything there is a season. To everything there is a season. There is also a time to bring in a discipline, a devotion. I can remember, God, I don't even know how many times, countless really, countless times where there has been the realization that the behavior of the mind body, the personality structure, is not being permeated, not living up to the realization. You know? And that gets actually the stakes get higher. Stakes get higher because there comes a time when any movement out of integrity, authenticity, hurts so bad it can't be sustained. It just the contractedness of that can't be sustained. It's not compatible with the realization, with the level of consciousness that has permeated the cellular structure. It's like drinking toxic waste or something. The effects start being rather immediate.